and the pull and the acceleration and the wheeling off the corner, I went, I'm in love. I'm in love. This is what I want. This is what I want in my life. This is amazing. And that's when I fell in love with the exhilaration of the power and the acceleration. And I didn't even know about racing at that point. Wayne said, you have to win the world championship. And I went, what? I said, I'm not ready for this. This is the Japanese,
Yeah,
and I said, I'm not ready for this. They went, yeah, you are. You can do this. I said, no, I'm not. I said, I would like one more year to get acquainted and learn from Freddie. No, Freddie, you are number one. And I went, I'm just going to go out there and line up. I'm going to pretend like I've got an entry because I have no entry in this race. So I've gone out there, and it's against 750 Yamahas and everyone. So I've had the balls to line up on the front row in pole position. Why not? So I've lined up there, and it's starting to rain, and they're going, hurry up, guys, and everyone's ducking for cover. And I thought, oh, this is perfect. No one's even spotted me. I'm not even mentioned in the race.
Before MotoGP was mainstream in Australia, before Phillip Island became sacred ground, there was one bloke willing to put his hand up, take the hits, and carry the sport on his back. Today's guest is Wayne Gardner, Australia's first 500cc motorcycle world champion, and a man whose influence on Australian motorsport runs far deeper than the record books. From apprentice steelworker in Wollongong to world champion, Wayne didn't just race bikes. He built them, improved them, promoted himself, and helped bring Grand Prix racing to Australia when few believed it could happen. In this conversation, we go well beyond the wins. From being exhausted before lining up at the first Australian Grand Prix he went on to win, to the early influence of his mum, sneaking into races he wasn't entered in and winning them, life after racing and building businesses, to why Gardner 87 feels like a full circle moment that began when he was 13 and modifying bikes in his backyard. This conversation goes places the highlights reels never show. There's humour, humility, and an unexpected turn into destiny and the power of the universe, alongside honest insight into what it means to chase perfection without losing yourself. This isn't just a story of a champion, it's a story of a man who built something that lasts. I'm Ian Hawkins, and this is Sport is Life. The purpose of sport as I see it is to see your vision become a reality, find your voice, create strong connections, and learn to trust your body. G'day Wayne, how you going?
Good morning or good evening over your end, I think. It's a cloudy, miserable day here in the south of France.
It must be one of the only few days that's that bad, isn't it? All sunshine and beautiful warm weather over there.
It's normally very good. I mean, they have very mild winters here in the south of France, and I live in Monaco. Yeah. And it's a small town, but it's there's always something going on. There's always a lot of activity in town, and I've got a separate place down here, and so it's a good place to be. But this time of the year, it's a bit miserable, So, but there's no snow. It's chilly, yes. It's sort of 8, 10, 12 degrees here. And it's a bit cold when I'm riding my bike up, back around and scootering about. So it's the best form of transport, to be honest.
Yeah. When you say bike,
I still love riding bikes. Sorry.
Yeah. So when you say bike, are you on an e-bike? Are you on a motorbike? Like, what are you?
No, a motorcycle. I had a KTM when my son Remy was racing for KTM. I had a Super Duke, which is 1290, animal on the road, and I was always on the back wheel everywhere and being a clown. But unfortunately, it was parked in the street and somebody cleaned it up during the night, so it was up against the post and wrapped around a post, so that was fine. So I ended up getting much less than what I paid for it in insurance, and I bought one of those Honda XADVs. They don't have them in Australia. It's a 750 twin scooter, a bit like sort of on-road, off-road type machine. But But, I'm not really happy with the way the suspension and the ride feels, so I modified it all, and it's a dream now. So anyone out there with an XADV, they're appallingly bad in setup. They're made like super hard, and I had to go and soften the whole thing up and turn into a bit of a cruisy bike more so than a sports machine, So it's meant to go on and off road. It's kind of an all-terrain, but they don't have them in Australia, but they do in Europe. It's a very popular bike.
Yeah, right. What I love is that your story started as a 13-year-old boy adjusting the suspension on a push bike because you wasn't a good enough ride, and you're still doing it today. How good.
Yeah, look, old habits don't leave, they still hang around. And it all started when I was about 13, 1972. I used to ride a push bike to school in Wollongong. I'm Wollongong originally, and I used to ride around on the back wheel everywhere like a clown, and it was my competition to go around the whole neighbourhood on the back wheel, and I eventually accomplished that. And by jumping off all these curbs and things like that, I used to take my sister on the back of the bike all the way to school. And then I just realised I didn't like it anymore, so I picked her off, and I'd ride up the street with her on the back, so my mum and dad didn't see it. And then I say, "Get off and you walk," and I'm on my way, and I'm on the back wheel. It took off. So she still reminds me of that. But yeah, look, I used to love jumping her off the curbs and things like that, and I started hating it, and because it was so rigid, falling on the ground and hitting. So I had a motorbike parked there. So I took the suspension off it, and my dad had a welder in the garage because he had trucks. He was a private truck driver owner, and he's got a welder there to fix cracked chassis and things like that. So when he was at work, I got to it with the hack. I got to my push bike, which was a Modern Star. Everyone remember those things. And I cut it up into pieces and tucked the swinging arm out and turned it into a bike with pivots and suspension. And I took the shock off one of my bikes and grafted it onto the bike. And I had the first bike with suspension ever, which was my own creation. And then the newspaper seen it, and I seen a photo. And in fact, if you go to the Gardner87.com website, you'll see the picture of the bike there in my leathers. I'm a bit older in it because I've been riding and I've won some races in black leathers. But the bike was stood there, and the photographer said, "What's that over there?" I said, "Oh, it's my push bike with suspension I built 2 or 3 years ago." Yeah. And it had a flat tire, and I said, I dragged it out and stood next to it. I took a picture, and then next minute it was in the newspaper again, and it's kind of gone from there. So I never lost that memory of that first beginning. And I always wonder, when I made that and they did the photograph, it's sort of become really famous in Wollongong. And I thought, I wonder if I'll come back to this ever. And I did. And now I've got time for it because I went through a racing career and raced around Australia and then America and then Europe and become world champion. So I had a huge career in motorcycle racing, and then I went off to do car racing, which is another story in my life. That was all quite successful, and won races and had big sponsors like Coca-Cola, and had my own race team. And of course, and then I got asked to go to Japan and race for Toyota. And I ended up flying back and forth from Australia, which is only like a 9-hour flight. It's not too long. And I was up there racing in GT sport cars as a factory driver for Toyota. And that was successful. We won some races, and it was good fun. It was 2 drivers per car, very, very fast cars, which was fun. I think it was 15 seconds or 20 seconds faster than my Grand Prix bike around Suzuka. So,
wow.
That shows you how ground hugging and how strong they are in the turns. And of course, after that, I retired, and then which was around about 2002, and I ended up getting involved in a family business, which was I started at the beginning of my bike career, which was called Wayne Gardner Enterprises, in which we import and distribute parts around Australia, like Michelin tyres and oil products and chains and handlebars and so on. So we had like 1,000 customers all around Australia, and then My parents ran that, and then when I came back to Australia, I took over, and then I realised that the internet's come in, and then I thought this is going to be dangerous to this business because everyone's buying direct out of America, and they have better pricing over there than what I was even buying from the manufacturers. And I thought that's not the way. So, and then at that same time, my kids wanted to race motorbikes, and I was teaching them as well. So it's been a long journey. Then I took them to Spain through an invitation from Honda for Remy to try out and do road racing, but he'd never done that before. And then what happened next? And then he was really successful, and next minute he's got a contract, and
it's all going again.
Yeah, and then living back in Spain and Europe, and then I realised then got divorced back in back in 2013, and then I moved back to Monaco and back up here since. So I've been in Monaco since, apart from about 5 years back in Australia, I've been here since 1986. So
wow.
A long time.
Big part of your life.
Very much.
Can we just rewind a bit, because you've just skipped over like one of the most impressive motorsport resumes in Australian motorsport history, right? To me, looking back at your journey, Australian bike racing in particular owes you a massive debt, right? From where bike racing was then to then you putting GP racing on the map, right? Like it's a massive shift. What are your memories of that time? Like, I guess at that point you're just trying to do the best you can, but like there was a massive swell. I mean, I can remember, I'm not a motorsport fan like a pure one. I watch the big events, but I'm staying up on a Sunday night to watch you like some of the most enthralling racing, like sometimes 10 lead changes of the front 3 or 4 in one lap. It was enthralling viewing.
Yeah, it was incredible racing. I mean, Australia knew nothing about the sport, and my battles were, when I was in Australia, I was trying to run around trying to find sponsorship because I was only an apprentice fitter in Gardner. I was only earning $57 a week. So trying to run a motorcycle and my car and go to work, it was very difficult. So I was always chasing sponsors, and I even went to Tui's Beer and people like that. And but as I started getting results in Australia, and then the smartest thing I did was I employed my Nick Buckering, who worked for the Illawarra Mercury. And he was just doing, watching my sport and putting stories up in the newspaper locally. And then he said, I said, I'd like to expand what I'm doing. I appreciate what you're doing. I said, you get me into motorcycle magazines, but I'm looking for sponsors. And I said, I'm not going to get anywhere if I don't go broader than that. And he goes, oh, yeah. And I said, what are you thinking? I said, well, I'm thinking that I want you to go out to all the magazines, radio stations, and consumer magazines like women's mags, men's mags, you name it, and start getting me into the bigger platform. And he went and spoke to his boss, and he gave him permission, and my career took off from there. And then, of course, I was getting the results at the same time. I was over in England just then, and all of a sudden I had sponsors knocking on my door. So, I was trying to ride the horse the wrong way, in a sense, and then I realized that the only way to fix this was get the marketing, get the exposure. So and Nick would say, well, what about the magazines? I said, forget them. I said, I'm going to get them anyway because it's racing, Okay. So we did, and it was the best thing we ever did. And of course, then the results came as well. And I was living in the UK in the early 80s, and I went over there in 1981, and it kind of then started getting at the imagination in Australia. Then it went on to SBS. Firstly, it was on there for a beginning. Then it went to, Packer picked it up because he thought it was amazing, and went to Channel 9, and then there was Darryl Eastlake and everybody else that came in the show, and Barry Sheen, and so it was kind of self-perpetuating after that moment. But me winning the World Championship gave enormous exposure to Australia and what the sport was about. And when we got on Channel 9, it was the best thing that could have ever happened, because it got onto the mainstream. And the results are coming at the same time, which was kind of cool. So
Yeah,
it was an amazing moment.
Yeah, I get goosebumps all through that. I think, again, it's like iconic moments in Australian sport was when you won that first World Championship. Like, it's nothing that anyone had sort of envisioned because it wasn't on the map. You put it on the map. So those days you said that you talked about the racing. Those guys that you race with and you were competitors against over that 5-year period.
Yeah.
How did you all get along? Like, was it like camaraderie, or was it there a bit cutthroat? Or what was it like?
Look, on the track, we fight like cats and dogs, So there was always battles and always fighting your hardest, but that's true professionalism. Off the track, and people didn't see this, but we were out having a beer after and having a barbecue at each other's motorhomes. We had big motorhomes then, and there was a lot of camaraderie, but there was also this element of secrecy. I'm not going to tell you all the tricks or what I'm doing to my bike or what tyres am I selecting or what compound or what suspension settings. So there was always tricks between everybody, and honesty wasn't always total honesty. And we all went through that. And, so are you telling the truth? Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, right. So, but I respect everybody for that because we're all in the same battle. We all want our hand on the trophy, the winner's trophy,
Yeah.
So you got to roll with the punches in that little stuff as well, So it was great, but it was much more fun than it is today because I see now the riders don't talk, don't go outside. They get off the bike, they go in their motorhome, and then you don't see them anymore, and they're not meeting the public as much. In those days, the public could walk around the paddocks, had free access to everything. Now they can't get in the paddock, So where the MotoGP riders are, the riders are still patient, but there's a degree of a lot more professionalism about it, where it's a bit like they're hidden away, and a bit like the one drivers as well. So it's a lot more open, and I think that's what the fans miss these days, is the open slather, knock on the door of your motorhome, come in, hello, how are you, want a beer, and sit down and have a chin wag, particularly with media. So it's changed a lot, for the better in a sense, but not so better in another sense, because the sport's changed like MotoGP.
Yeah, what I was going to say is it's changed heaps. Like, even look at safety. I think about you guys and those bikes that you had to wrestle around those circuits, and you didn't have anywhere near the protection. Now, I'm not saying these guys, it's still dangerous, right? There's still massive amounts of courage, but for you guys, it must have been like, did you thrive? Did you think about how dangerous it was, or was it just part of the process?
Oh, no, you're aware of the danger all the time because, we've all been through many fractures and broken bones, and that's part of the trail of trying to be a MotoGP rider. In those days, there was a lot of barriers, and you were riding up against, I've raced around the streets as well, and that's pretty scary. I mean, I take my hat off to these Isle of Man people, riding in the streets there, but the speed, what's happened is they came up with all these concepts and ideas and tracks when the bikes only had 50 horsepower. Yeah. Now they've got 300 horsepower, So the bikes and the technology's advanced so much, the speed's gone up. Top speed of a MotoGP bike now is 380, 90 kilometers an hour. And then with a long enough straight, they'll do over 400. So they've got enormous power now, and they're 1,000 cc. And we developed suspension, frames, tyres, and they're so much better and faster. So, but you can't slow the bikes down. This is the problem. And so you have to start adjusting the race circuits. And that's why racing around streets will probably never happen in MotoGP's lifetime. I see the other day that there was a comment about, Phillip Island, they're going to lose it. It's going to go to Albert Park in Melbourne. That's no chance that's ever going to happen. FIM and Dorna will never accept that, So racing around tracks with concrete walls, it's too dangerous. And
Yeah.
and same with the Isle of Man, that type of stuff. It's you've got to think of the rider's safety, because in my time I've seen a lot of riders and friends being killed in the sport right in front of me. In fact, so, and I was lucky not to be part of it. So the sport is extremely dangerous, and I think everyone's forgetting that. They see the speed of them and how exciting it is, but the bikes are faster now these days. But I don't think the racing is as good and as interesting as it was back in our days. I mean, now they've got traction control and anti-wheelie and anti-squat and all these safety support. But the problem is they're not seeing the bike sliding and moving, and that's what the people want to watch. They want to see the excitement and the rider's ability, not the computer on the bike controlling everything. And I think that's what's missing, because you don't see them very often spinning the wheel and drifting up off the corners of what we were doing, moving big black lines. And it's vastly different now, and the technology and the rules and the regulations, and of course the safety points of view, so they want distance so that you don't hit anything, and it's good that it is that. I approve of that.
That year when you won the World Championship, can you remember what it was like in the sort of races leading up to that, and that moment of getting over the edge? A lot of athletes talk about it was more relief. Did you have time to have that feeling of euphoria, or what was that experience like?
Well, that's in '87, and that's what kicked alive the huge support, and Phillip Island. That's how all that happened. But at that time, I went into the '87 year as Freddie Spencer's learner. I had P plates on my back, because Freddie was the main man. He's already been 2 times world champion, and he was racing for Honda. I was in the same team as Freddie. And so I went there as a year. I finished second in the championship the year before, and thought, I can't beat Freddie. He's too good. So I'll just learn from him again this year. But during the beginning of the year, he had some problems, some medical problems, and he had some contact lenses kept falling out. There was all these weird things that happened to Freddie, and then he got an injury, and then the Honda came to me and said, I think we're at a Reth in 1987, and he said, Freddie's not going to be here for the next 3 or 4 months, or maybe the rest of the year. Wayne son, you have to win the world championship. And I went, what? I said, I'm not ready for this. This is the Japanese, and I said, I'm not ready for this. They went, yeah, you are. You can do this. I said, no, I'm not. I said, I would like 1 more year to get acquainted and learn from Freddie. No, Freddie, you are number 1 now. You win. You must win for Honda. And I went, okay. Well, I thought about it, and I went, well, I'm not really prepared for it, but I thought about it, and I went, you know what? Now's the time. Now's the opportunity. Freddie's not here. I can make myself I got a good bike. I knew it fast in a straight line, but it didn't handle that well. But I thought, I'm going to fight for it this year. And then I got my head down and got that confidence. And then I started winning races. In fact, I think I won 7 or 8 races that year in about 14 races, I think it was, that season. So I won half the season at least. And you've got to do that to be able to win a championship. So, and as it went on through the year, we had some tough moments. A few beers, mate. Also after the races, it didn't go so well. But it started to click. And I was also working with at that time, a sports psychologist to help me. In fact, Rothman's engaged it the previous year, and it really made me jump up and learn faster and look at more detail. For example, looking for 1/10 in one corner, you know what I mean? Or thinking about the bike and thinking about the lines and opening the throttle, when's the right time. And so it was a case of breaking up the circuit, every circuit you go to, into small portions and start analysing small. And that was before they had data recording on the bike. So it was pencil and paper and maps and things like that. So now they have total data recording of everything now. So, but it was a natural ability that I think that sort of got me there, and my big heart and everyone's always said I had big balls, but yeah, man, I don't really, but I never gave up. I want it's the boy from Wollongong that never gives up fire to the bone, you know. So and I still have it now, and that's why I want to bring back that compassion, commitment, focus, and that's where this started, Gardner 87 brand, because it was a chance for me to go back and revisit where I started and fulfill one of my dreams, was to have a bike brand and a bicycle brand at the moment. So it's part of a bigger plan. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I want to come back to that because I want to just keep going with the bike journey. You were instrumental in getting the Australian Grand Prix, right? Just how much did you pour your heart and soul in that to make that happen?
Well, Bob Barn came to me, what was it, 89, 88. I'd won the championship, and they took me down to Adelaide to ride at a display lap around at the F1 race. I think it must have been 80, would have been 88 or something, 88, I think, yeah. And so Honda sent the bike down there, and I rode around the track, riding on the back wheel around everywhere and showing off as normal, you know. So, and then a guy called Bob Barnard came up and seen me and approached me, and he was running the Adelaide GP, and he's the guy that put all that together and so on. He said, "Look, I'm a big fan of yours. I've been watching what's happening." He said, "You've turned Australia onto motor racing." Into bikes, and he said, you know, and there's mix coming next, there's more Aussies and Stoners and people like that. So he said, I think it's an ideal time that we could build a circuit and have a MotoGP race in Australia. And I went, really? I said, that would be my dream, you know.
Yeah.
He goes, yeah, because I'm not going to do this without your support. And I said, oh, really? He said, what do you want to be? Well, I want you to lobby some of the government, the politicians. I want you to go to all the media. I want you to talk to magazines. I want you to drum up the interest in it around the country. So I said, well, I'm still racing. So he goes, but I want to send you around Australia. And so I got on a plane and started just prior to the GP. He said, I'll go and build the circuit. I've got a place called Phillip Island, and I said, where's that? And I flew down and met him at the track down in Phillip Island, and it was just a paddock, a farm. It was a farm with an old broken down track on it that's grass growing through it and sheep everywhere, and you know, it was a mess. And an old tower, it was falling down. There was no infrastructure there, zero, you know. So. But it was a cool layout when we drove around the car, and I went, wow, that's a cool track. He goes, well, what I want to do is repave the whole thing and build garages for the GP riders and for et cetera, you know, and flag marshal points. And I said, oh, it sounds great. But I said, how are we going to do this? He goes, well, I'm going to be accessing some funding and pitching to the government. So I won't do this without you. I need your help in every area. Contacts, Dorna, at that time, it was prior to Dorna. So he said, I need your help. He said, I'm not going to do it without you. And I said, okay, you got my help. I said, I'll do it. I said, as long as you can fit it in my racing program that year. And he goes, yeah. So prior to the race, I traveled around Australia for nearly 3 months, just going from radios to newspapers to magazines to every small minor piece of marketing area, and then we seen the result in the first year with 100,000 fans there, you know. And of course, I then went on to win the race, and I felt I was too tired to race, to be honest. And Donna, my wife at that period, goes, I said, I can't do this, and I'm exhausted from 3 months prior to the race, just around Australia, because it was like a big build-up, and then fly back to Europe, and then back and forth and back and forth. I just said, I can't do this, you know. And she says, you can do it. Come on, you know, get the dog and bone out again, you know. So I did. I got there, and I head down, and it was an amazing race. And I not only won in '89, but I also backed it up the next year with a broken wrist at the same time. So it's a pretty incredible story. And I don't know, my hardest one physically was the second one in '90, but the first one, it was an amazing race. I think we had 18 or 19 race changes, and it's an amazing race to watch, you know. So everyone who's seen that around the world just goes, wow, that was the best race we've ever seen. So it's great to have won the best race of people's ever seen. I've had people say, yeah, yours is even better than Kenny's and everyone else's races, you know. So I was very lucky, and through grit and determination, you know. So I don't give up when I, you know, as I said.
It was massive. I can remember when all that pitch was happening, because it got across everywhere, and then to actually go out there and win it, like, I don't know if you're feeling the pressure, but it must have been a bit like when the F1 boys come back now. The other thing that I sort of equated to would be Kathy Freeman, like the weight of the nation, because it had been such a big build-up to this first Australian Grand Prix, and to do it in the fashion you did, because you only just nicked him, didn't you? Like, it was like, even that last lap,
It was close.
crazy.
It was close. It was close. I had to, what we call overriding, you know, in that last part, and try to keep everything straight and perfect and not make a mistake. And when I did get into the lead, you know, it's very easy for them to draft me and pull out in the draft and down the street. And I was getting in as much as possible. And you got to keep not one error, not 1 millimeter offline. You know what I mean? It's very difficult to do at such high speed. I mean, even then we were doing 200 and oh shit, sorry. Even then we were doing we were doing nearly 300 kilometers an hour down the straight. So it was a huge speed, you know. In fact, 330 kilometers an hour we were going down the main straight there. So yes, you do get nervous. Yes, you feel the pressure. And yes, it was trying to just have everything accurate and focus on every little minor details, you know, that I had to do. I had to get right. And that takes a lot of concentration, particularly after about 30 laps around there. You know, you're really tired.
Yeah. Mentally and physically, I imagine. To me, a lot of this gets overlooked, because then you get preceded by Mick Doohan, who goes out and wins a bunch of world titles. But to me, like, my memory is of this time and just how profound it was. Do you think there is an element that does get overlooked a bit, just how influential, easy for me to say, you were in getting the whole thing off the ground, and actually, like, really starting the legacy of Australian bike racing?
Yeah, you're correct. I think a lot of people tend to, well, we all forget easily these days, you know. So, look, you know, just yesterday, or in Australia Day, I posted a picture of me winning the GP at Phillip Island with the flag, with the Aussie flag. It was for Australia Day, you know. And I just posted that at the end of the day, and just thought it was quite iconic and suitable for Australia Day. And the people that have come on there and just gone, oh, I remember this, I was there, I was this. All these memories start coming out, and it drags memories out again. So I, you know, what I was trying to do was pitch my electric bike business and say, look, what I'm doing now, guys, you know. But they're all more interested in the Aussie flag and winning at Phillip Island, the memories of that. So, which is great. I'm really happy. I'm proud of that. There was a lot of proud moments, and there was a lot of hard work, believe me, you know, a lot of injuries. And there were a lot of moments when I thought I wouldn't pull things off, but if you don't try, you never know, you know. And I'm a great believer in that. My mum used to tell me, dream big and never give up. And and that's a really great analogy. My mum used to always say to me, go get them. You can do it. You can do it. And Morawaki, who was 81, one of my sponsors, that which is another amazing story, when I was at Sandown, how he spotted me riding in the rain, and when I'm winning on this bike, I wasn't even entered in the race. And that's another amazing story, you know. So I've got endless thousands of great stories, I cannot tell you, you know. So it's been an amazing journey.
That Sandown event, I have memories of that, because it used to be on a Sunday the racing used to be on a Sunday early
It was a Swan
afternoon.
Series.
Yeah. Was that an endurance, like a 6 hour or something?
No, no, no. That's Amaroo Park. I won that. I won the Castrol 6 hour a few times, and that kind of launched my career. That's at Amaroo in Sydney.
Yeah.
Sandown is in Melbourne, and
Yeah.
and they had the Swan Series on. It used to be a series that they did 3 or 4 tracks around Australia at that time. And I was racing in England, and I brought my bikes from England back to do this Swan Series. And I went in. I was riding a superbike, a big Peter Malloy superbike at that time, and actually, it's before I went to the UK. Funny as that, I just remembered, and I went into the Swan Series race, and it looked like it was going to rain against all the Grand Prix bikes on a superbike. The one with the big bars up. And I thought I have no chance of winning, but if it's raining, I can shit this in. I'll win this. And I got out on the grid, and it looked like it was going to rain. I put wets on, ready for the big occasion, but it didn't rain. So I was slipping and sliding all around the track, and in the dry, because it chews up their cut tyres with wets. And so I came in, and the tyres was knackered. It was rooted, and then Peter Moore said, "Oh, why'd you do that for?" I said, "Because I thought I could win if it rained," and it nearly did, but it didn't. Whereas we're sitting inside under the stadium, my bike got put into the van, Pete's van, because Peter Malloy was a famous engine tuner. He built a street bike up into a superbike for me to ride. That's the beginning of the story. And so I had a friend from Wollongong came down with me, Malcolm, and I'm walking around. It starts pissing down rain, and I've gone, "Oh, I wish I was out there now. Now it rains. I've missed the gap." So they're saying, "All attention paddock, all riders for the Australian Unlimited Championship, different category, Unlimited Championship, come to the grid, hurry, because it's going to rain. A torrential rain's coming, and we want to get this up and started." And I heard this, and I went, "Wow, Unlimited Championship. Maybe I should just go out there." So I ran around trying to find Malcolm, looking for the keys. We couldn't find the keys. So I ran, because Peter Malloy was up on the grandstand, up there with friends drinking beers. And I went, "Find the keys." We couldn't. And they're saying, "Hurry up, guys, hurry up." I said, "I'm going to go in this, get a screwdriver out." So I get the screwdriver and break the locks on the doors and steal the bike out there, put some fuel in it. Malcolm put the fuel in. I put my leathers on. And it's raining, and I thought, I've got a back tyre on the bike, the wets that were knackered. And I went, I'm just going to go out there and line up. I'm going to pretend like I've got an entry, because I have no entry in this race. So I've gone out there, and it's against 750 Yamahas and everyone. So I've had the balls to line up on the front row in pole position. Why not? So I've lined up there, and it's starting to rain, and they're going, "Hurry up, guys," and everyone's ducking for cover. And I thought, "Oh, this is perfect. No one's even spotted me. I'm not even indented in the face." So they're going to go, and I took off, and I just took off in the rain, because it was a good bike for the wet, being a 4-stroke, and I was against all these 2-strokes and GP bikes, and I'm a modified street bike essentially. And so I'm just riding around. I just blast them. I left them by 2 or 3 seconds a lap. And as the race is on, Peter Malloy didn't even know. And they're going, and then some of his friends go, "Oh," there goes Wayne. Who's that? Who is this rider? Number 6 on the track. We don't know who it is. And they're going, they're running around and going, "Oh, it's Wayne Gardner, and he's leading the race." And Pete's looked up and gone, "That effing son of a bitch stole my bike." And he was furious up on the grandstand, drinking beers with Mal Pittman and all these other guys. So I've gone out, and I've just gone off and cleared up. I won by over 30 seconds, a long way. But during that period, I knew Mr. Moriwaki was in Australia looking for a rider to take to Daytona. And I had no chance, because in the previous races I didn't go because my bike blew up at Oran Park. It's a bit of a long story. And then this is my last chance to show. Hopefully he's watching. And so I'm out there, and I'm winning the race and doing what I should be doing, like I was meant to do in the Swans race. Swan Series, and so I go off and I win, and then I come to the end and I went, oh, that's cool, I won the race, and then I pull up at the start line and hit with the garland around my neck, and they give me a big silver dish, and you win the race, and fantastic, congratulations, Wayne, and rah rah rah, and then I look around and here comes Peter Malloy, and he had polio and had a bad limp, and he comes walking up, and they call him Grump or Grumpy, and he's come walking up, he goes, I'm standing there with the dish in my chest and the garland around me, and he's gone, you effing this and effing that, you son of a bitch, you stole my bike, and blah, 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 and he's going off at me. And I went, Pete, this is yours. And I shoved the dish into his chest here, the trophy. I've got it still in my trophy list. And I shoved it into his chest, and he kind of went, oh. And I put the garland around his neck, and I said, oh, look at that. That's amazing. Congratulations. He goes, you little bastard. He goes, I love you. I love you. It was amazing, amazing race. He goes, but don't ever do that again, you little effing son of a bitch, you know. And I went, wow. No, sorry. I just thought it was a good chance, you know, to get out there. Yeah. Oh, it was amazing. So then we all go back to back under the stadium, where the pits were, and everyone, I was having a beer and celebrating, and then the next minute, one of Mr. Moriwaki's, one of his friends come along and said, oh, Mr. Moriwaki wants to meet you. I've never met him, you know. And I said, oh, yeah, can you want to say hello? And I said, absolutely, he's a legend, you know. And so he came around, and he didn't have a lot of English, and he was chatting away, and said some funny things as normal, and he was very nice, very sweet, and that was it. And I went, oh, well, at least I tried. I gave him my best shot, and I was in a race, and I won the race, and I even collected the prize money as well, which is even funnier. And everyone was congratulating me for winning it, but they didn't know who was on the grid for a little while. And so then Crosby came over, and he said, Mr. Moriwaki's Graham Crosby, another rider, and he said he's from New Zealand. He goes, he said that he just got, and that's right. He gave me a call about it 2 months later. Mr. Moriwaki has called me and wants me to ask you, do you want to go to Daytona and do one race over there and come home? And I went, yay, of course I do. I said, don't have to ask twice. Yes, I want to do this and ride a big superbike in the American Superbike race up on the banks of Daytona. Wow. And I said, yeah. That's it. And then so I told Peter Malloy, and he goes, oh, I want to come with you. I said, sure. So we went over there, and I was really successful. I went out against the biggest and best guys, and I finished fourth on my first time out there. So up on the banks, and it took a little bit getting used to, but that's where it all started. And then what happened is they were meant to sell the bikes in America with Moriwaki. That was his plan, but he couldn't sell them. I had really good success over there. So he said, I have a better idea. Why don't you go to England? Because we have a distributor over there who's going to run a little team, Moriwaki Superbike, a British Championship. Why don't you go and do one race? And here's your partner here, your teammate, Roger Marshall. And that's when I first met Roger Marshall, my best friend. So I went over there and stayed at his house, and he was living near Cadwell Park. And so then in Cadwell Park, the first race of the champions happened, and I'm riding this big, unusual bike around there. And he showed me the track in his car, and we did lots of laps, and I got familiar with it. And I went out and won the race.
How good.
Beat all the heroes in the UK with GP bikes. I beat them on this big old modified street bike, and everyone's gone, what the hell was that? And where did you come from? And I won my first race in the UK on this big Moriwaki bike. And there's a hill where you jump in the air, and all the bikes jump in the air. And I was jumping this thing through the air, and I was freezing cold there. And I had to go out and buy one of those red vests, and I was running around with a red vest over the top of my leathers. It was very noticeable. And I ended up winning the race by about smart. And then we went over the line, all of us together, and I beat the British best in my first time out. And I won about £2,000 that weekend. And they said, oh, you're leading the championship. We want you to stay now in the UK and race. And I've gone, what? I had to call in Peter Moy and said, Peter, he's in Australia. He goes, yeah, I'm building your bikes. They're nearly ready. When are you back? I said, I'm not coming, Pete. He goes, why? He said, I said, they've asked me to stay and race the season because I'm leading the championship. Oh, you little effing bastard. And I said, I'm sorry. But this is a great opportunity. And he came back and he goes, yeah, look, I agree with you. Great opportunity. Go out and kill him. Go out and smack him, you know. And so then I realised, and we got to some tracks. I had a big race with Barry Sheen, who's a world star, and we fought the whole race. And I'm on this big super bike, and he's on a GP bike, and he eventually got past me on the last lap because he ran in the side of me, and I moved over and let him win. But it was probably a good thing because he praised how good I was, and then from then on, I had Honda and Yamaha and Suzuki and all the rest of them chasing me to race in the UK after there. So I did need to come back to Australia, and Pete got another rider. He got another friend of mine, John Pace, and put him on the bike. So everyone's happy at the end of the day.
All worked out. Yeah. Great story. When you moved over to supercars, was that because you were looking for a new challenge? Was it a safety thing? Like how did that all come about?
Yeah, look, I went through a development phase with Honda. It was hard to convince them to change the bike. When they did, we made a lot of progress. But after that, after the bike didn't handle very well, I was always pushing the limits of the previous bike too much. And it kicked me off quite a few times. And I ended up breaking my leg. And then I broke it again in Japan. And so I've had 2 fractured legs. And I went, I'm not very tall as it is. So if I keep reducing my height, I'm going to be a midget soon. So I thought, look, I'm better to stop now because I'd leveled out my legs at the same length again by coincidence. And the bike, my legs are fine now, but I broke a tibia and fibula in both legs in a similar place, so they were spiral fractures and not very good, but they came back pretty well, and I repaired very well, so I was lucky. So I just thought, you know what, one day I was racing, one of the last year in 92 as I was racing, and I just seen some walls were in one of the French tracks, and I went, wow, this is really dangerous, and then I started looking around in the crowd while I'm racing, and I went, wow, I've lost focus, I've lost determination, I've lost what I'm doing. And I then finished the year off. I won some races. I won the Suzuki 8-hour race with Mick, which I won a number of times. And I just, the injuries wore me out, I think, probably more than anything. And I was starting to get concerned for my safety more than anything else. And I'm still fit and healthy now. And but I was just wondering, wow, I've been, I won the World Championship and I was 2 times second, only through machine failure. I got 2 times second. So Kenny asked me to come and join his team with Yamaha, and he said, mate, I think you've got another 3 or 4 more titles in you. So unfortunately, I selected the wrong time to stay with Honda, and I should have went there because I could have won more championships and I would have had a new lease of life, changing the brand, changing teams and everything else. I didn't like the politics inside Honda as well. That was something that drove me insane. Injuries not forced me, but swayed me to retire. And I just realised I want to go and try other things. And I was watching Bathurst car races. I was always a fan. And I went, I want to go and do that one day. And then I was telling one of my friends in Sydney, and next minute, when I was retired, I was sitting on the beach doing nothing, calling my friends going, come and play with me, and with a box of beer, and everyone says, no, we can't, we got to work. And I went, well, that's no fun. I might as well go back to work. So, so I went and I went to Bathurst and did a touring car race up there, and had fun doing it, and went very well. Then I drove to Honda, and I won my class and 3rd overall, and so I've adapted to cars very, very well. Not many do, but I have.
I was gonna say, like, how much of an adjustment is it? I mean, the same. I guess it's like the principles of where to be on the track and how it, racing, but in terms of how you approach it, is it significantly different? Like a whole different way of thinking?
Well, yeah, it is. You've got to keep everything clean and smooth. On a bike, it'd be a bit more ragged. But the problem is, it's a lot safer in a car when you have an off. you know, like these down cars in Japan I was racing, you've got a big downforce, and if you break the downforce, it lets go. Particularly up riding over curbs. So I had a big shunt in one of those things and hit the wall at a fast pace. It spun mid corner, and but I got out and I was okay. I had a headache, obviously, but no injury. So you're protected by a steel shell, basically. So, and then so I got interested in that, and obviously I have a real talent for cars, and I had a real good feeling for, particularly in the wet. I mean, I went to Bathurst and qualified in the rain. Everyone nearly a second, you know. So, I was pole position, you know, and I led the race many times, and so I just didn't quite lucky enough. I finished at Bathurst 2 times on the podium, third, but I always had issues with drivers or engines blowing up or something like that. So the speed's there, and I quite like the thrill of trying to keep it all smooth and perfect. This is what it is. I'm perfectionist. You know, I like everything absolutely perfect all the time. And so I focused on that, and the speed got better. And but unfortunately, I didn't have all the right tyres and the right engines in it at the right time. So I've led it many times, Bathurst, but I didn't quite finish it and finish the story. But still got on the podium 2 times and one in Japan. And so, I've had a successful, and I was a fast driver. There's no doubt, you know. And I think surprised them. And a lot of the other riders have tried to do it, GP riders, but not many have succeeded. Very little.
No,
I think the only one that's been that can do both. In fact, a journalist rang me one time and said, "Do you realise you're the fastest driver in the world?" And I went, "Oh, I never thought about it like that." He said, "Yeah, you can do very, very well." And he said, "That's quite a status." And I went, "Yeah." So I stuck with that until I kind of got bored with that as well. And then, of course, my kids then were at me all the time. "Let's go bike racing, Dad." And then I bought it. I want to learn how to ride motorbikes, so I bought a farm to teach them. And
whereabouts South Coast of Australia,
in Berry.
Oh
I'm in Australia. I was living in Sydney in Manly, and I lived in Bower Street there, and had a beautiful home, great lifestyle. But my kids goes, "Dad, we want to ride motorbikes." And so I went, and we started riding around in the parks on little quads in Manly area, and we got in trouble. I got in trouble by the police to stop it, and so I had to join a mini bike club. So I took them up to St Ives mini bike club and got them in there. And then, you're not going to believe this, but the first day the guy gives me the membership for my 2 sons, and he says, "Here's your numbers to stick on the bike." So I put the numbers on their bikes, Remy and Luca, and it was number 87 on Remy's, and Luca's was 86. So I was second in the World Championship in 86, and 87 I was World Champion. I didn't spot it until about 3 months later. I was watching the bikes, and I went, "Oh, that was a good year, 87. Wow, that's amazing." And there it is there. I was World Champion there. So I went, "Wow, there's something about this." So that's when I created this branding. I think that's pretty cool, because Remy's still racing today with number 87, and Luca's still racing part-time, just for fun, with number 86. So it's quite iconic how that sticks with you, you know.
There's actually a few moments now where I was going to ask this question, but they just keep coming. Do you believe in some sort of destiny or some sort of fate to this? Because there's so many things that just seem to have fallen into your lap.
Yes, I do. No, I don't know what it is, but if I start thinking about something and want something, and I think about it enough, it materializes. I know everyone says this is a whole lot of BS, but it works. I can't tell you how it works. I don't know why it works, but I think it's a gift that I got from my mum. My mum was always lucky and winning things all the time in lotteries and things like that. So I think that, I don't know what you call it. It's destiny. Yes, it is destiny. But I agree. I believe in the power of the universe. You know, I'm not really a religious person, but I believe in the power of the universe, and with thinking waves. You know, and destiny. And I never planned that I was going to be a writer. It just kind of just came to me and pulled me into it. And so, and then when I tasted it and got my first day on a GP bike, I got to ride a friend of mine. I took up my YZ125, my dirt bike that I was racing at the time. I was 17, and it was a club day for the Wollongong Motorcycle Club. So I put road tyres on my bike with a 21-inch for road, with motocross bike with big suspension and street tyres, and changed the gearing. I took the air filter off, thinking that's what everyone does, and I didn't realise that it'll run too lean. So I went near down the pictures of it, and I went, oh, this is cool. And I'm riding this. It's a 125 Yamaha, and then and I about the fourth or fifth lap, down the straight, it just locked up. And it starts skidding to a halt. And obviously, because I took the air filter off, it ran too lean and seized up rock solid. So I put the bike away, and I was really disappointed. And then I go in. A friend, he had a racing bike, a guy called John Zammett at the time. He had a TZ250, which is a Grand Prix bike production model that they sell. And he said, I said, can I be riding? He goes, oh, yeah, end of the day. He was doing some laps. And I kept pestering and helping him and pumping his tires up and fueling and doing everything so I could get to ride this bike. And then I said, oh, come on, John, give me a ride. Come, it's nearly finished. The day's finished. Come on. Oh, all right. So I went out there and went, what? And I just felt this surge of power. I've never felt like this. It was a twin cylinder 250. Yeah. And wow. And the shifting was the wrong way, and I'd try and get used to it. And I went around the small track at Oran Park, and I just got faster and faster. I go, how cool is this? And I just love coming to the straight up the hill, up the last corner at Oran Park, and the pull and the acceleration and the wheeling off the corner. I went, I'm in love. This is what I want. This is what I want in my life. This is amazing. And that's when I fell in love with the exhilaration of the power and the acceleration. And I didn't even know about racing at that point, So then I went back and went, oh, that's amazing. I went home and said, Dad, I want to buy a 250, a TZ250 and race. Oh, no. Well, I've got no money. And so I said, oh, geez, So then I had to try and work around that. And I'd go out there and do milk runs and sell newspapers and collect aluminium cans and steel, copper and brass in old trucks and parked. And, I went through I begged. I was a beggar in the beginning to be able to go and buy petrol. So that's where the whole thing started. And, of course, the more I was more determined, the more I win. So it just goes to show you, you've got to be focused, you've got to be determined, you can never give up.
Yeah, I love that. I don't understand how all that universe stuff works, but I know that what it does. But I also know that what your mum's language that you described before, that's been instilled in you from a young age. When you have that level of belief, then things do just tend to happen because there's none of those thoughts getting in the way. It's like your attention starts going towards that belief, and things just unfold. Doors open. And I wanted to get to your post-racing career because firstly I wanted to see, was it a big adjustment, or did you, because you had this resourcefulness and this determination, did you just after car racing, did you suddenly was it just a simple transition into business? Was there an element, because you mentioned before sitting on the beach after you retired from bikes, or was it a bit more of a smooth transition because you'd already sort of seen that void?
It's a very good question. I thought, what am I going to do when I retired? So completely from motor racing. And then I got involved in the family business because my dad was getting old, and my mum and my sister, they were all working there, and they needed some funding, and so I put some money in there, and thinking I'll grow that, but then I realised it's a nightmare, and with the internet turning up, and I thought that's not the way. And then what did I do then? Then I started doing some property development, and that's where. But I've been doing property development from when I was from about 23. I'd buy a house, fix it up, sell it, and so on. That's in England. And so I then started doing apartments, modifying them, and then selling them for profit. And so I've been doing that for a long time. So it's growing now, and I'm purchased a big site in Wollongong, an industrial site with 30,000 square meters for not a lot of money. And I hung onto it, and it had old sheds, and I was leasing that out, covering the interest. And then I was waiting for the right moment what I was going to do. And people kept knocking on the door asking, can they buy a piece of it, 10,000 square meters or something? And I kept saying, no, no, no. And I then realised a developer in Sydney, who was a friend of mine, showed me some ideas what to do. And then I come up with a whole lot of warehouses on there that I did calculations on what the income would be and per square meter and so on. And so I then went to an architect and got him to design up what I wanted and all my new ideas and new designs. And I come up with a new template for industrial sites. So I built, funny as though I wanted 100 on the site, and Wollongong Council wouldn't give it to me, but they wrote back and said, no, we can only give you 87. I went,
no way.
Yeah. And so 87, it's true. You go out to 6 Blamby Lane, there's 87 warehouses out there. And I built a lot, and I sold probably 2/3 and kept 1/3 of them myself. That is my income. So
you couldn't make that stuff up. Couldn't make that stuff up, could you?
And it's still happening today. It's still happening. This 87 keeps popping up. Everywhere I go, it does it again. Everywhere I go, it comes up with 87. So I went, well, why fight it? Accept it. It's a lucky charm, you know.
Let's go play Keno or something, and we'll load up on 87 roulette.
This is just only a few stories. I've got a room full of stories about the link to 87. So I thought, well, it stuck with me. You know, I might as well use it. So that's why I created Gardner 87 to bring back my electric bicycles, motorcycles in the future. So.
I love it. And let's talk about that now. So we've talked about your legacy in Australian bikes and just how powerful that's been. And I'm glad we got a chance to talk about, I think it has been undervalued, and it's good to hear you talk about just all of those influential moments. But then the personal legacy, you talked about from that young age, you wanted to create things. And now, mate, I said to you before you record, the most beautiful e-bikes I've ever seen. Now, in Australia at the moment, it's become a bit of a challenge because there's all these kids with modified kits. They're essentially riding motorbikes around the streets with no helmets.
Yeah.
But
which is incorrect. I'm actually glad the police are enforcing this, because it's wrong and it's dangerous, and what they're doing it does need correcting. It doesn't involve what I do. But it's mine are certified to Euro 5 standards. So they're sold. One is a 25 kilometres an hour, and then there's a street version, road version that's 45, and there'll be another version later. So I'm growing up through them, but there's a lot of certification that needs to happen. So mine will be, locked into that if they ever get to Australia.
Yeah, and I was watching some of your content around it, and what you said is that where it's positioned is, okay, if the top end bikes are here and a motorbike's here, what you've created is in between that. And from what I can see, we're talking high end. Like, these are classy machines. Like, if you just go onto Wayne's website, gardner87.com, you see these things, mate. They look unbelievable. I bet they perform well too.
I'm just about to update the website, because we've got all new colour range now. The ones on the website are a matte colour, and it doesn't do justice. I didn't see them until we launched them at the Eurobike show last year in Frankfurt. It was everyone. I won the bike race out there. Everyone came and said, "You got the best bikes here." I filled a gap that no one had ever gone before, which was between bicycles and motorcycles. And I brought technology and image down into a bicycle and still had pedals just to get started. So it gives me leeway to go down into the bicycle market and go up into the motorcycle market. So, or the electric market as well. So I positioned myself there. They've been very, very successful. Just after our first show, we've had a long list of orders. Mostly in Europe. I'm only pitching to Europe at this moment, but I'm going to sell worldwide. I'm going to sell direct to consumers, because I want to be in touch with them and create a club around it where they can come and ride with me and teach them, show them how to set the bike up a bit better with changes to the springs or suspension or air pressures or all the little minor things that make a huge difference. And that's what I do with motorcycles too. I can get on and tell you, no, that's right or wrong and so on. And that's what I said to you about my XADV. I've gone from bike that's horrible to ride and everyone hates them to now it's a plush bike around town that's got a 6-speed gearbox in it. It's totally auto. So there's room for precision and giving detail and helping them along the way. So they'll be actually all around the world, these bikes, and we'll start selling our new motors. We're waiting on new engines from Yamaha, which are 100 Newton meters, which is the equivalent of about 42 horsepower. So they're pedal assist, don't forget. It's only when you push the pedal, it pushes you forward. And they're limited by speed. It's regulated by the Euro 5. So, but they've got lots of power getting uphill. You don't even know you're riding uphill. So much power you are. And they're doing now Yamaha saying we're getting 150 kilometers out of one battery charge. So it's a pretty good charge, yeah. So we're excited by this new engine coming, and then we're using 48 amp volt batteries in the bikes. So the bikes are beautiful. They're stunning, and now in new colours they're even more stunning. In fact, I bumped into Prince Albert the other day, Monaco, and
as you do.
yeah. Well, he was in the bar with me. So, and I hadn't seen him because he used to come to the races and watch me race. And I said, hi Albert, and he said, oh, man, how are you? I said, I heard you were back in town, and I said, yeah, and I said, I've got look at these photos. I've got him showing all of them in new colours on my bikes, and I said, listen, I'm going to do an official launch in Monaco because it's in a Monaco company now, and so it's going to be made in Monaco, the bikes. And nice. And I said, we're going to have a big launch sometime in 26. And I said, I want to get some pictures of the city and up in the mountains. And I said, how about I build you a bike? I'll give you a bike. And he goes, oh, that would be fantastic. I said, you've probably got a garage full already, haven't you? He goes, no. I showed him the bike. He said, no, but I want one of those. I said, okay. Yeah. So I gave him a card. I said, look, I'll get back to you with it. So currently, he doesn't know this, but I'm getting one painted in red and white. The Monaco flag is red and white, so I'm getting it done in his colours. So I'm excited to present that to him later on, middle of this year. So we're busy. I'm busy at the moment putting all this together. Offices started, production line. We don't get our new engines until April from Yamaha, so it'll start from there, and we send them shipping out to various countries. But we have already a long list, so they're expensive. They're not cheap, but they're quality, and they're, a lot of people that got boats want to buy them and put them on their boats. So it's been very popular so far, which is really exciting and good news, because I want to create a legacy that will last forever when I'm long gone. Maybe my kids will pick it up and use it. So, but I want the brand to be around, and there's never been a Grand Prix world champion ever come up with his own bike line. So I kind of think it's a bit of an iconic thing again in my life. So, and particularly using the number 87. So it's kind of fun. It's a fun project for me. But I'm not treating it just as a hobby. I'm treating it as a business, and I'm very focused to make this a success. Very, very, and I'm investing a lot of money in it too. It's an expensive project.
From everything you've described, like more than a racer, you're a technician. Like you've got a knack for pulling things apart and putting it back together and making it work better. And to me, what you've described there with the Gardner 87 bikes is that's your legacy in physical form.
Correct.
You must be so proud of it.
I am proud of it. I'm focused on this so much more than other things. I'm a property developer as well. And I have a project over here that I'm building as well at the moment. So I'm torn between the two, but I love building things and projects, and I've got a large project underway now, and it'll be finished this year. and I'm always looking for new and interesting projects for me to get involved. I don't want to. I like to get up early, 5, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, and I jump into the day because I'm eager to go and do something because I don't want to sit at home and do nothing. So I'm 66 now, and I can't stop. I'm on this treadmill that just keeps going and going and going, and I'm really enjoying my life at the moment. And I've always got something that I'm involved with that keeps me busy. So it's kind of really cool, and I'm enjoying it.
Awesome. You mentioned your boys. How was your experience being the sports parent and the absolute joy that comes with that? Any sports parent would know, but also some of the challenges for your boys, given your pedigree, and they've got some pretty handy motor racing names too.
Well, there's good and bad in this story. My two boys are fantastic, Remy and Luca. They're both talented boys. They can do anything they want. They've got skills that's beyond my beliefs. But they wanted to go bike racing. So Remy's been very successful. He's been a world champion now in Moto2. He's now in superbikes. He's got a good lifestyle. He's living in Andorra. And he's just got recently married. I went down to his wedding in the middle of December. I was proud to be there. And Luca, he's back in Wollongong working in construction, which is another part of the business that I like. So they're both in things that I adore and love, and I know a lot about, and I can try to pass on knowledge and help and support, and with all kids, sometimes some financial support. But look, I've had a great life with them, but I have had the last 3 or 4 years, I've had difficulty with them. But we're all back on board now. We've solved the problems. Fortunately, we're all talking and we're all back in love again, and now a family unit. So it's been 3 to 4 years of heartache, stress, and no talking and no communication. But we're all back together again now, and I missed them, and I'm so happy to be back in both their lives. They're both great fun. So. Yeah. So awesome. I'll be seeing them. I just seen Remy, and I've actually Luca was there as well in Spain. So it was great to be with those two at Remy's wedding.
Yeah, magic. I'm so glad to hear that, mate. And I talked before we hit record about the stress that all parents go through, especially when your children are at that elite level. So it's great to hear that you've been able to make that work and all come back together. Well,
it was difficult because the problem is, for Remy, competing in the same sport I did, everyone's comparing him to me. And they're big shoes to fill. And he's always said, it doesn't bother me, but I think it has in the last few years, I think that was part of the issue. I don't know. I'm not really sure. I don't want to even ask the question now, as long as they're back in my life. But I understand it because they're going, he's as good as his father, or he's not as good as his father, or whatever. So I always said to Remy from the very beginning, you're going to have a hard time with this, but be prepared because, everyone's going to compare you to me. And I said, and I hope, and I want to help you to become bigger and better and win more championships than me. But I also want you to be safe as well. I want you to come home and have a still normal life. And that's the important thing about when you go motor racing is that, yes, it's very dangerous, but you still got to think about your future years together, as well. And what are you going to do and how are you going to do it? And so, I'm a bit of a tight ass. I'm always trying to save money and put it into ideas and projects and so on, and to create a business for myself in the future. And that's just one of them here, So I own the car racing team, and we're selling accessories off that as well. So I have some experience in that, and I just thought it would be a great idea and make this an iconic brand because of the number 87. Again, it just keeps popping up in everything I do, and even my car's got number 87 on it for some reason, So I didn't even ask for it. So it's it's just the way it is. It's like a magnet, It's the universe speaking again to me. That's what it is.
Yeah.
The universe calls, and you take it,
100%.
I've been driving around thinking about. I have to talk to somebody in Germany, a friend of mine, and I got this. And someone come to me with a hydrogen car idea, and so on. I went, I must talk to a friend Martin. He's in Germany. I wonder where he is. I haven't heard from him for 2 or 3 years. And you're not going to believe this. I was in Wollongong, and I was driving back through the industrial area, and next minute Martin calls me, and I've gone.
He heard you.
Martin, it's Martin here. I'm in Germany, and I've gone, no. I said, hey, what did you call me? Oh, I seen a picture of you on Facebook, and I just remembered how I was checking to see how you were, and I went, no way that happened. And it's a true story. And I went, I want to speak to you. I got this, about hydrogen engines and hydrogen cars and things, and I wanted to ask you some questions. He goes, yeah, I'm still doing that now. So I said, how's the timing of this? And that's the power of the universe. It's just the power of your mind. And this is why I'm convinced it works. And I see a lot of people use this. This Tony Robbins also does this. And it works. I'll tell you, the universe gives you what you want if you want it bad enough, and it's your desire.
100%. Tony Robbins's mentor, Jim Rohn. I listen to Jim Rohn for that many hours, hundreds of hours, and he talks about all this stuff all the time. It's amazing when you put your mind to it and you actually get everything pulling in the same direction. Yeah, it's powerful. Absolutely.
I'm a sworn believer in it.
Love it.
I don't go around telling everybody, but now everybody knows. But I didn't listen to somebody to learn this. It just kept coming to me all the time, and I went, this is a bit weird. And I started asking some people, and they said, oh, that's a bit like talking to the universe. I went, is that what it is? So but I can't tell you how it works. When I want it to work, it won't work. I want a button that's saying I want this on the wall, but it doesn't work that way. And it comes to you normally if you ask it for enough and you wish it and you desire for it. It comes to you in different forms. It might come via an accident, or it might happen something else, or involved in another business, or involved with somebody else, or whatever. It comes to you and it delivers itself to you, and it always does in different forms. You just got to be wary when it happens. You go, oh, you've worked the magic again when the time happens and you didn't expect it. That's amazing.
And mate, it is. The thing that I've learned is that when you said it doesn't work when you want it to. It's like when you put all this resistance on it, that's when it sort of runs into a dead end. But the moment you go, we'll just let it do whatever it does, and that's when it just falls in your lap, right?
That's exactly right.
Like when I'm looking for higher quality guests for my podcast, and I kind of went, well, that probably won't happen. And since then, I'm interviewing you. I've had a couple of other big names, and that's how it goes. Fantastic.
No, you only got to turn it. You know what? There's an old saying that I use all the time. My mum used to say, "If you don't try, you never know."
That's it. Got to ask.
And if you fail, you don't fail. You learn. It's a lesson. Yeah. A failure is a lesson, not to do that again. So you can't lose. If you don't try, you'll hate yourself forever. If you try and it fails, you've learned a lesson not to do that again that way, and then you modify it and go to another way. So if you don't try, to all the kids and the kids that you're training and all the mums and the dads, you got to dream big and chase your dreams, and don't stop, because if you stop dreaming, these things won't materialize in your life, and your goals aren't there. So you're building goals in life. That's what you're doing.
Yeah, well said.
But that's good. It's a good thing. It's not a greedy thing. It's just that it's what you want.
Yeah, 100%. We can all have what we want if we,
dream big and never give up.
100%. Now,
when you talked about my mum, my mum was all positive. My dad was the exact opposite. My dad was pessimistic. Oh, it was terrible.
Interesting.
Oh, Dad, I want to try this. Oh, I wouldn't do that. Oh, I want to go and do that. No, you can't do that. I'm going to go and ride this race this week. No, don't do that. My dad worried about safety and things like that. He was just concerned for safety. And he would not support me with ideas or push me into trying. He would never, to be honest, he was a truck driver, but that was about it, all he did in life, So he worked in the business, and he was quite good with that. I took him out of trucks and put him into my business. He did a pretty good job of that, but it took it out of
Risk
him.
aversion.
Yes, he would never try something or do something, and where my mum was the exact opposite. So I had yin and yang in my life to balance me out, to think about what my dad says, to be positive like my mum. So, but overall, my dad's not held me back, but I worked it out when I was about 15 years old that I wasn't going to listen to my dad anymore, because every time I asked for something or thought of what about an idea, get his consent, no, don't do it. So I went, you know what? I'm not going to listen to him anymore. So I from that day, it sounds bad, I never listened to my dad again. I listened to him, but I never acted in what his wishes were, because if I do that, I'm never going to go anywhere in life. So I decided to go brave and have a go. And my mum
Worked out all right.
yeah, well, exactly. Go get it, right? I would never have thought that I would have been sitting here in Monte Carlo, living a great lifestyle and developing my brands, my bikes, and driving a great location, driving nice cars, and having a great lifestyle, building houses, building apartments. But I've never thought that was possible. But the lesson in this is everything's possible in life.
Yeah.
It's just how bad do you want it, and that's what you've got to tell him up there in the universe.
Love it. Now, without giving away any secrets, I'm sure there's other ideas coming. Can you let us in on a little, maybe a little sneak preview of something you've got in the works?
I've said to you, I've got some. My bikes are going to grow, I hope. We'll be releasing them, shipping out from April onwards. I'm always getting ideas. I always get ideas off ideas. I'm always coming up with new stuff. I'm not going to tell any secrets just at the moment, because I don't want to I don't want to curse my ideas. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, fair enough.
And I don't want to say out loud and people expect something, but there's a lot more coming from the Gardner 87 brand. That's what I can say.
Love it.
It'll grow in time, and I'm not in a hurry. I'm going to grow it carefully, and because at the end of the day, I want to create motorcycles too. So, and that's no lie, and no other world champions ever done that. Have their own brand of motorcycle, and so I'm planning for the bicycle market. I'm planning for the motorcycle market. And between it is what I've currently got at the moment. So I've got lots of ideas on that. I've got lots of improvements already, and some more coming in the bikes I'm going to upgrade the website in colours, which they're stunning. And everyone sees it, goes, "Oh, I want one." It's
yeah, I want one.
yeah. Oh, you got to see the latest colours. It's. In fact, I was there 2 days ago, ordering these new colours. I got a great painter here in Nice. And we've got so many ideas coming, and some other changes to the bike and improvements, and I'll never stop developing the bikes, and there's just so much to do. So I'm excited. I'm looking forward to getting into my new offices and working with the guys, and the little production line there, storage center as well for components and backup, and then we'll start honing it down into better and better products, and expanding the range then further. So it's exciting times ahead. I'm not going to tell you any more of my big ideas, but
fair.
I don't want to spoil it. But there's definitely room for growth in the brand Gardner 87. So I'm
yeah, I bet you are. I'm looking forward to see where it goes. Wayne, thank you so much. You've been so generous with your time. It's a massive honour and privilege for me. It's great to hear more about the legacy that you've left for Australian motorcycling. It's also even better to hear about your own legacy, your personal legacy, what you're growing there, and the unexpected lessons about the magic of the universe. Mate, I thank you for sharing that one too, because that's really cool. It's not a conversation that a lot of people are prepared to have, and I appreciate the fact that you were. So thank you so much, mate, for giving us that time. I better let you get off to go to work and keep developing this brand.
Yeah, that's where I'm headed actually. So, yeah, look, it's been a pleasure. Thanks Ian for your time. But may I say, what I've done in Australia and putting on the Grand Prix. It's a pity I'm not involved anymore in it. Victorian government, the AGP office. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with them. They've lost the plot, I think. So they're going to lose it, I think. I don't know who to, but someone that's a bit more proactive and can use it and it's a great spectacle and it's a great attraction, So, but I'm proud of what's happened in Australia. I'm very proud of it because all the other riders wouldn't have done what they've done. It was me paving the road and pioneering it, and particularly Phillip Island, Bob and myself were the two people that put all that together.
Yeah.
Hard work, and I'm proud of what I've done. But I did it for Australia. I did it because I've got lots of loyal people out there, and it was fun, and I was having fun doing it. Look, let's face it, I'm very determined, but I only go out and do things that I enjoy, and I enjoy motorbikes. I still love bikes, and that's why I created my own brand, just to go another step further. So I'll always keep reinventing. You'll see many more products coming out in the future. There'll be more upgrades on our bikes now. I mean, it's in a very basic form at the moment, but I'm looking forward to waving my special wand over the whole thing, and you'll be amazed at what they're going to look like in the future. So thank you. Thanks very much for your time, Ian. It's been a pleasure. You're a real gentleman, and good luck with the coaching, and it's been an honour to be on your podcast.
Mate, I appreciate you saying that. I'm certainly looking forward to seeing what's coming. I think I can speak for the Australian public to say thank you because of what you have created. But yeah, like I said, the goosebump moments that Australian sport people from my era will never forget, mate. So yeah, thank you. And again, thank you for coming on.
My pleasure. Thank you.
As this conversation shows, Wayne Gardner's impact can't be measured by titles alone. Yes, he was world champion, but more importantly, he helped shape Australian motorsport, backed himself when no roadmap existed, and kept building long after the helmet came off. From laying the foundations of Australian Grand Prix racing, to shaping Phillip Island into what it would become, to building something deeply personal through Gardner 87, this episode is really about legacy, instinct, and backing yourself to keep creating. If something in this conversation resonated, whether you're navigating your own next chapter, building something from scratch, or simply reflecting on who you're becoming, take a moment to consider the legacy you're actively creating, not just the results you've achieved. And if you know someone who'd appreciate this story, share the episode with them. Some lessons are meant to be passed on. You've taken the time to listen to this whole episode. Now it's time to take action. Commit to one thing you've learned today and make it happen. And to avoid any obstructions, join the Sport is Life movement by clicking on the link in the show notes.